Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh. I am the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar. The topic of today's webinar is the Online Slips and Referral Tracking Program. So we're going to learn about how to pass referrals online, how to receive referrals online, the process that your chapter goes through for recording those online slips, and all the benefits of using those particular online slips. Today's webinar is a live webinar. We were scheduled for 30 minutes of content, which we also, because it's a live webinar, you are welcome to ask any questions you'd like during this webinar, and we will also stay live on the webinar until all of the questions have been answered. The webinar is being recorded. You'll be able to review this one as well as all of the webinars we've done through two places. If you're in BNI Connect, you can click on the question mark here, and that will take you to our support site, support.bniconnect.com. And if you scroll down towards the bottom, there's a trainings section. In here, we have all of our webinars recorded and listed by month. So, for example, you can click on May's recorded webinars and see all of the topics that we covered during that month, including a copy of this online slips and referral tracking. You can also find them on youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. Up here we have all of the webinars listed on a number of different topics and also some special presentations like this video from Dr. Meisner. But let's take a look at the functionality that we're going to be talking about today, and that is the online slips and referral tracking. So when you first log into BNI Connect, this is the screen that you should see when you go there. Now, if you do know that we have a number of people from other countries that are on the call with us today, there are a few countries around the world that will be implementing this functionality soon, either this upcoming month or towards the October timeframe. So if you don't see this screen, instead when you log in and you see a screen that looks like this, it means that that functionality will be coming soon, but you're welcome to learn about how to use it once it comes into place. But for those of you that have the functionality, this is where you would see it. This is the My BNI Business page. And let's explain what some of the things on this page are. Up here at the top, you can see some quick access buttons to go in and do things like change your password and update your profile. The next section here is basically your stats. So this is the POMS report based on the last 12 months and your lifetime in BNI. So even if you've moved from other chapters to a new chapter or you left BNI and came back, we are able to go into all of your memberships and get your lifetime activity here in BNI Connect. One thing to note about this top section here, so that's all of these numbers at the top, there's two things. The first of which is that these numbers only change on a weekly basis. So even if you submit online slips, your vice president still needs to tally up all the slips and balance the paper slips and online slips. Only after the vice president submits the weekly activity report will these numbers at the top of the screen change. One thing you'll also notice is that there's a new field in here called Thank You for Closed Business Received. Now, that's something that we've never really tracked before in BNI. Traditionally, when we pass in a Thank You for Closed Business slip on paper, it's an anonymous slip. Because of that, only the giver is recognized. So the Thank You for Closed Business given is a number that we've always had in BNI. However, the Thank You for Closed Business Received is something that we can only track via the online referrals. So everybody will start with a 0 for this number, and this will start to build up only when you input the online slips. The bottom section here is where we actually do the activity for the week. So you can see here we have the 4 different types of slips. We have the enter a Thank You for Closed Business slip, enter a referral slip, enter the one-to-ones, and enter CEUs. Then we have the referral tracking sheet, which allows us to go back and review the referrals we've received. And we have the 4 corresponding My reports, which is your record of the slips that you've input. So let's take a look at how we actually do these things. Now, I'm going to switch over to our training system. I am a member here in the Rhode Island region of BNI, so I don't want to mess with my own personal numbers here in the system. So I'm going to switch over to our testing system. So how do we enter the slips? The first slip here is the Enter Thank You for Closed Business slip. So let's enter one now. So if I click on that button, it will bring up the Thank You for Closed Business slip. And this should look just like the slip that we pass in our weekly meetings, the green slips generally, at least here in the United States. To enter Thank You for Closed Business, we're just going to select somebody from the list. Now this list should have all of the active members of your chapter. So let's say that I'd like to thank Janet Birtwell. She's our picture framer in our group, and I'd like to thank her for a referral in the amount of $250. I can mark it off as whether this is new business or it's repeat business, whether it was an inside or a Tier 1 referral, an outside referral or a Tier 2 referral, or a Tier 3 or above referral. Now the great thing about this slip is you can also keep comments. The comments that you enter here are private to you and only you. Nobody else can see that data whatsoever. So you can be descriptive on this, and I can even put in that this was a referral to John Doe for on-site computer service. Once I click Submit, this will be recorded in my Thank You for Closed Business report, and it will also be put pending into the POMS report. We also have an option to click Save and New. So if I'd like to enter a number of Thank You for Closed Business slips one after the other, I can just click the Save and New button and immediately open up a new one. I'm going to do that now. So you can see it'll submit this slip, and then it'll open up a blank slip so that we can enter a new one. I can see the form has been submitted successfully. What I wanted to show you also is that you have the ability to now track activity cross-chapter. That means that if I have a referral partner in another chapter in my region that produced income for my business, I can thank that person for Thank You for Closed Business as well. You do that by clicking on the Search Cross-Chapter button. And what this will do is bring up a search function. So I can look for another member in my region in order to thank for closed business. Now the good thing is you don't even have to enter their full names. For example, there's a referral source. His name is Alex Agronic. I can never remember how to spell his last name. So I can just put in the first couple of characters of his first and or last name and click Search. And this returns the result. So I can see it as his name. Yes, that is the correct chapter. I can see it's the right business. And I can click OK. Am I sure this is the right person? And yes, it is. Now I can see that the thank you will go to Alex. And it was for a referral in the amount of $1,000. One other thing to note is that please don't put the dollar symbol. So if we put the dollar symbol, it will tell us only whole numbers are allowed. And if we try to save this referral, it will fail to save. So be sure that you're only putting the numbers into the referral amount. And this was for repeat business of an inside referral. I actually helped him out with his system. Now these are the only two that I'd like to submit at this time. So I'm just going to click Submit, and it will submit that slip, and it will bring me back to my home screen here. Now the great thing about the Thank You for Closed Business is that it now goes into a My Thank You for Closed Business report. Note that the numbers on the top did not change yet, and that is because my vice president hasn't submitted the POMS report yet. Or immediate in my Thank You for Closed Business report. So if I click on this, you can see that it's going to show me the last 6 months by default, and I can click Go. If I wanted to, I could change these dates to any dates that I'd like to. Once I pull up this report, it'll show me all of the business that all the slips that I've entered in the past 6 months. And we can see that the two that I just entered today are on the bottom here. So I can see the one that I entered for Janet Birtwell for $250 and for John Doe. Now the great thing about this, as far as I'm concerned as a member, is that I'm sure this has never happened to you, but you're at your chapter meeting and David Nichols comes up to me and says, hey, I had passed you some business a while ago. Did you ever do the thank you for closed business for me? Well, right now, once we turn in that green piece of paper, it's gone forever. So unless you marked it somewhere else or kept it in a spreadsheet, there's really no way to go back and review the thank you for closed business that you've submitted in the past. Using the online slips, we now have a record, and I could go back to Dave and say, oh yeah, Dave, that was the referral for $575 for repeat business, and yes, the slip that we can enter is our traditional referral slip. To do that, we're just going to click on the button that says Enter Referrals. This is the same referral slip that we have in our chapters now. Again, I can choose somebody from my chapter, or I can search cross-chapter for a referral. If I choose the drop-down, let's say that I have a referral for Jim Lawrence. He's our wills and trust attorney in our chapter. And the referral is to James Cameron. It's an outside referral. I gave the card and told them that Jim would be giving him a call. His address is 1 Main Street in Hearville, Rhode Island. The telephone number and the email address. And any comments that you'd like to put in. I'm going to rate this a 4 on the referral temperature scale by clicking in the corresponding box. And I'm going to click Submit. Now, once you submit a referral online, one of the great things that happens is that Jim from my chapter just received an email letting him know about this new referral. Here's what one of those looks like. I got this referral just about a couple of weeks ago from somebody in my chapter. They rated it a 5 on the temperature scale. I can see that the referral came from Keith Traversy, the phone guy in my chapter. The referral was to statewide title and closing, and here's their address and their phone number, the comments about the referral, and contact information if I need to get back in touch with Keith for additional information. The great thing about these notifications are that it shortens the referral process. So because I get notified about this referral right away, I can follow up on it right away. Because I'm receiving these on my cell phone as well, I can usually just tap on the phone number right on my cell phone, start that dialing of the phone number for statewide title and closing, and get that referral ball rolling right away. And the same thing, if I needed to email Keith back, I could either tap on his name or just respond to this message, and Keith will get the notification back about that. In addition, that's going to go into my referrals report. By default, it'll show you the last 1 month of past referrals, but of course you can change this if you'd like to look at the last 6 months or the last year or whatever time period you'd like to choose. Once I click Go, I can see that I have the referral here that I just passed to James Lawrence. I have who the referral was, what type of referral, and all of the details about that referral. So again, a couple of months from now, or even a week from now, Jim says, oh yeah, you passed me that referral, but I lost the pink slip for it. I forget the details. I can go back, I can look up the details, or just verify that I did indeed pass that referral. As with just about all reports in BNI Connect, they can be exported if you'd prefer to manipulate these or use these in an Excel spreadsheet, or you can print this out to a piece of paper. The third type of slip that we can enter online in BNI Connect is the one-to-one slips. We do that by clicking on the Enter One-to-One button. As with the other slips, we need to just pick out who we did a one-to-one with. So I can select a member from my chapter, or I can even search cross-chapter if you did a one-to-one with a referral partner in another chapter within your region. So let's say I did a one-to-one with Dean Boucher. He's the Verizon Fios guy in my chapter. I can mark who initiated that conversation if I'd like to, the location that we met, what we talked about, and the date that we met. Now, with one-to-one slips, only one person of the pair needs to enter that one-to-one. What will happen is if you do try to enter a second one-to-one, or the second person tries to enter a one-to-one, it will give you a warning saying, oh, a one-to-one has already been submitted for this person on this date. There's no need to enter a second one. And as with all of the other slips, there's a corresponding My One-to-Ones report. By default, it'll show you the last 6 months, and I can click Go. Now, again, I'm sure this has never happened to you, but you're sitting at your chapter meeting, and you look across the room, and you say, you know, I haven't been able to give Pete DiStefano a referral in a very long time, nor have I received one from him in a long time. Well, the driving force behind referrals is one-to-ones. I can then look at this report and say, well, no wonder why I haven't done a one-to-one with Pete DiStefano since January of this year. I should probably get one scheduled if I'd like to deepen my referral relationship with that person. The final slip that we have here is the Enter CEUs. Now, CEUs are the chapter education units, or we keep track of the additional learning that we've done for the referral process. The nice thing about this slip is it will do the math for you. So you just need to do the quantity of each of these types of activities, and it will calculate out the credits for you. So let's say that I listened to 5 podcasts this week, or one set of 5 podcasts. We had one leadership team training that I went to, and I finally finished off 2 books that I had been reading for a long time. You can see that it calculates out the 10 credits for the 2 books that I read, as well as the 3 credits for the 1 leadership team training that I took. Once I click Submit, as with all of the other types of slips, it will be immediately recorded in my CEU report. And if I click Go, this will show me all of the CEU slips that I've entered over the past 6 months. And I can see that here are the details of the slip that I just entered today. So a lot of people ask, well, that's all well and good, but what are we supposed to do at the meeting now if we're not passing referral slips? One thing to keep in mind is that the meeting format and agenda is not changing any way whatsoever. We still are going to be doing the same things at the meeting that we always do. When we get to the referral and testimonial portion of the meeting, we absolutely want to be talking about the referrals that we passed, the one-to-ones that we did, the visitors that we've brought, as well as what we did for CEUs. There's a handy personal meeting activity sheet that you can print out before your next chapter meeting. So if I click on the personal meeting activity sheet, it's going to show me the last week's worth of entered activity. And if I click Go, What this does is pull up a report for me to bring to the meeting. So you can see that it does the referral slips in a large format, and that should print out to be pretty much the same exact size as a traditional referral slip. So you can take a pair of scissors and cut that slip out and pass it in at the meeting into the referral jar or the bowl or whatever it is. That way you can be included for the door prize that week. The rest of the information, there's no need to actually turn it in because it's already been put into the POMS report for you. But it is definitely something that you want to announce. So this helps to organize that part of the meeting as well. So when we get to that part of the meeting, you can stand up. You can turn in your referral slip so that you're included on the door prize. I had a referral for James Lawrence to Jim Cameron. I also had a thank you for closed business to Janet Bertweld for $250, Alex Agronic for $1,000. I had a one-to-one with Dean Boucher, and I had 14 CEUs this week. Now, if for some reason you don't have a printer or you forget to print this out or you simply don't want to print it out on your home printer, that's okay. Our recommendation is that if you would like to be included for the door prize, just fill out a regular slip at your chapter meeting. However, because it's already counted in the POMS report for that week, it's already pending there, you want to make sure to let your chapter vice president or chapter coordinator know that that slip has already been entered. One recommendation is to just fill out the name and the referral name into the referral slip, but then put a big X right through the slip. So that as your vice president is going through and counting that week's activities, they can just skip over that one and not enter it as a duplicate into the POMS report. Another method would be just to write the words entered online into that referral slip so that it's very obvious that they don't need to count that one. Definitely talk to the vice president of your chapter so that they know the method that you're going to use in your chapter to let them know that it was already entered. And again, for the other slips, there's no need to pass in a piece of paper for those ones. Now, one of the other benefits of using the online system is that you can also track your received referrals. And we can do that through the referral tracking sheet. So when somebody passes you a referral in BNI Connect, you'll get the email notification, but it will also go into your referral tracking sheet. So I'm going to look at the referrals that I've received in BNI Connect for the last 4 weeks here and click Go. We can see that I received this referral from Best Practice Energy, the phone number and the date, and as well as the status of it. But by clicking on the Edit button, I can also go in and edit the details of this. So what's great about this is I can track the progress of my referral. So I can mark down when I first contacted that person, when I first met with that person, when I followed up with that person by choosing a date. I can mark in here for my own records if there was any thank you for closed business or if a spinoff resulted from it. Now, note that this is not part of the POMS report. So even if you put in a thank you for closed business here, you do still need to submit an actual slip through the online slips program. One other thing to note is that this status field here is shared with the My Referrals report for the other person. So as a referral giver, going back to my Referrals report, when I look at the My Referrals report, I can see the tracking sheet status in here. So once Jim Lawrence marks his referral as either pending or closed or no sale, it will update my referral report as well, so I know the status of that referral. So it becomes a two-way communication between you and your referral partner to know where in the process that referral stands. And finally, there's a referral tracking report that is more of a text-only report of the referrals that you received, so you can quickly look at the information. Now, if we do have any vice presidents on the line, or we have any, I believe they're membership coordinators in some countries, Let's take a look at what this looks like for you. One of the benefits of using the online system, or when your chapter members are using the online slips, is that it makes the vice president's job much, much easier because we no longer have to count all those paper slips. For anybody that's never been a president or vice president before, it can take a long time to sort out and tabulate all of those paper slips. For an example, my chapter has about 50 members in it. A couple of months ago, before the online slips was introduced, I substituted for our vice president. I spend a lot of time in BNI Connect, and I kind of know what I'm doing. It took me about 90 minutes to sort out all of the hundreds of paper slips and enter the information into BNI Connect. Right now, I'd say about 50% of our chapter is using the online slips, and it now takes our vice president only about 30 minutes to get that report done. But let's take a look at it. I'm going to go to Operations Chapter. And let me switch over to my own chapter here. And as a vice president, here's how I would enter my POMS report. I'd go to Meeting Management, and I'd go to Enter POMS. Now, our meeting is this coming Thursday. So all of the slips that are entered up until Thursday will automatically appear in this upcoming POMS report. So as you can see, the thank you for closed business that I entered for Janet Birtwell is already in the POMS report. The one-to-one that I had with Dean Boucher, there's a 1 under the one-to-one with Dean, and there's also the 1 under my one-to-one column to mark that one-to-one. I also had an outside referral that I gave, shows up as a referral given outside for me, and a referral received outside for Jim. And of course, we can see the CEUs as well that I submitted. Now, Vice Presidents, if you'd like to verify all of the online activity in your chapter, there is this button up here at the top called the Slips Audit Report. Once you click on this report, this will show you all of the activity that happened online. So this is really your balance sheet. So when you have a chapter that some people are using the online slips and some people are still using the paper slips, this is where you can see all of the online slips. So we can see the CEU slip that I entered for 14 credits. We can see the referral, or the one-to-one that I entered with Dean Boucher. We can see the referral that I passed to Jim Lawrence. And we can see the thank you for closed business that I entered for Janet Birtwell. Now you notice that the thank you for closed business isn't here for Alex Agronik. And that's because that thank you for closed business now correctly went into his chapter so that he gets credit for it on his POMS report. And finally, if you are a visitor host, and vice presidents, you should be aware of this as well, entering visitors into BNI Connect will also populate the POMS report. So if you go to Operations Chapter, let's say a chapter visitor host, and we add a visitor to the system, you'll notice that there's a field during this data entry for invited by. Please note that the person that's selected here on the invited by will get credit in the next POMS report for having brought a visitor. So we are at the bottom of the hour. For those of you that do need to leave right away, I would like to thank you for being on the call today. But at this point, I would also like to open this up for questions. And again, I am happy to stay on this call until we have all of our questions answered. Excellent. So it looks like we have a couple of questions here. We have one question from Samdi Locke. Says, what is a good referral? So that might be a good question for the director consultant or educational coordinator of your chapter. Generally speaking, a good referral is somebody that is expecting your phone call. So as long as that person is accepting and willing to receive a phone call, that would be considered the minimum for a referral. As to what's a good referral for a particular person, that is something that you should definitely have a one-to-one with that person to find out more about what a good referral is. A good referral for me would be that if you do find these webinars helpful, to please go back to your chapters, let them know about the webinars, point them to the recordings or to the live schedule of webinars, and we'd love to inform more people about all of this great functionality. So hopefully that answers your question, Sandy. I see a couple of people with their hands up as well, so I do want to open your microphones at this time if you would like to speak your question. We have Lon, I believe, on the call. I'm going to unmute your microphone. Hello, Lon, can you hear me? Hello? Okay. Well, we have another hand up from Sandy. I'm going to unmute your microphone as well, Sandy. Hello? Okay. So it doesn't look like we're able to get the audio from that. Do we have any other questions? If you have any other questions, I invite you to type in your questions now. Excellent. If we have no other questions, I would like to thank everybody for being on the webinar with us today. If you have a moment, please remember that this webinar is recorded. It will be available on our support site by clicking on the question mark here in BNI Connect and going to, oh, hold on, we have a couple of questions before I close up. So YP asks, how do you do the reality check? Now, the reality check can be done a couple of ways. You can still, if people are passing in that paper slip, you think about it the same way as the door prize. So if people are passing in the paper slip, either as a duplicate slip with a big X through it, or if they're printing out the slip and passing that in, you can use that for the reality check. You can also use a hybrid in order to and refills in order to do a reality check through there as well. Does that answer your question, YP? As a follow-up, are there chapters that still hand in physical referral slips even when using the online system? Again, there's two ways in which you can, the only reason to hand in a referral slip is for the door prize. So if you wanted to hand in a physical slip, would be to be included for the door prize and for the reality check. Now for this purpose, the best thing to do is to print out the personal meeting activity sheet, which will allow you to cut this slip out with a pair of scissors and pass that in. That could then be used for both of the referral reality check as well as for the door prize. So that would be the reason for turning them in some paper fashion. The nice thing about doing the personal meeting activity sheet is that it will print out to be approximately the same size as a referral slip, but this is very obvious to your vice president that it has already been entered into BNI Connect, so that there's no confusion about a duplicate slip. All right, we have another question here from AJ Hetzel. He says, they say, do we get CEU credit for the webinar? That is a regional question. I can tell you that the official slip, and if we go to the Enter CEUs, this official slip does not have a place for webinars. please check with your director consultant or the executive director of your region to find out how you guys might count the CEUs for this type of presentation. I can tell you that what most regions do, or what some regions do, is that if you look at these, it's approximately about how many hours you have invested in order to get the credit for it. So, for example, it takes about an hour to listen to a BNI CD. That's why it's about a 1 credit. So for these types of situations, they'll choose a 1 credit course and turn in a slip for 1 CEU for either a podcast or a BNI CD. So does that answer your question? But definitely check with your executive director or your director consultant on that one. YP says, can you set your own CEU point system for your own region? YP, no. At this time, the CEU slip, this is a 100% mirror of the official headquarters CEU and slips program. So it is not open for customization as far as adding new categories. The proper way to do that would be to please have a discussion with headquarters about amending the CEU program to include those things. So does that help, YP? All right, YC, Tang has a question. It says, which role is responsible in entering visitors' information that'll populate on the POMS report? Traditionally, YC, that would be the visitor hosts for the chapter. At least that's how most regions do it, although in some regions it's the secretary-treasurer, it might be the president, it might be somebody that's designated in the chapter. But definitely have a talk with your director consultants or executive directors in order to facilitate that in your particular region. YC asks, how do we manage returning visitors or duplicate visitors? Right now, the visitor entry system and the visitor recording system in BNI Connect, what it's doing is it's actually creating a visitor database for you in order to be able to follow up and recontact people that have visited and eventually convert those visitor records into member records so you don't have to re-enter all of the information. The best way to manage duplicates is to not enter them a second time. So we should only be entering unique visitors into the system. So for example, if I'm a BNI member and I go and I visit another chapter, I'm not really a visitor to that chapter because I can't apply to that chapter, so there would be no need to enter that into BNI Connect. Does that make sense, YC? YP asks, so will visitor hosts have access to BNI Connect? And all members have access to BNI Connect. As a visitor host, if you're designated as a visitor host within the system, then you will by default have access to the visitor entry part of the system as well. So depending on the roles that are assigned, but by default, all members within BNI Connect should have access at the very least to these reports and member module things that we see on the home screen here. All right, YC says, is there some mechanism in place to prevent human mistakes in taking in visitors' information twice? And YC, no, there's not. At this time, it doesn't do a search or a check against duplicate records. So my suggestion would be to run a visitor report first to verify against which visitors are entered. So it is something that we are looking into for a future release. But right now, and yes, I understand the concern about returning a second time after 6 months or even after a year. And it is something that we are looking into at the moment, but right now in the system, there's not. YP, with the online system, will we finally have the members traffic light? The members traffic light is not there yet. We do have the chapter traffic lights within BNI Connect. So there is a report under the chapter level. So if I go to Reports Chapter, there is a chapter traffic lights report towards the bottom here, where I can look at the traffic lights for all of the chapters in my region. But right now, there is not a member level traffic light. So that is something we are working on and something that we're hoping to have in the system someday. But at this time, there's not. Do we have any additional questions? I love getting questions. I noticed, Lon, you have your hand up again. I'm going to attempt to unmute you again. Hello? Oh. All right. YC says, is there a simple way to edit mistakes that are entered? So one thing about the online slips right now is that once you submit any of these slips, it is final as far as the slip is concerned. So there's no way to edit it currently in order to correct a mistake. That being said, the vice president or whoever is entering the POMS report, they have full, complete control over the POMS report. So for example, if I, as a member, I enter an incorrect thank you for closed business slip, I would have to contact my vice president and ask them to correct it in the POMS report. So as my vice president is going in, and I let my vice president, hey, you know what, the thank you for closed business I entered for Janet Burtwell, that wasn't $250, that was $2,500. My vice president could go in and correct that number for me and then submit the POMS report. But the slip itself right now is uneditable. That is definitely something that we will be putting into a future version. I know it's not in the very next release, but we're hoping that it will be in a release later this year. YP says, that is the top of the wish list for many DCs and LTs in terms of chapter management, member traffic lights. I agree with you. It is something that we also use here in our region here in Rhode Island that we calculate manually. It is something that is fairly easy to do on a manual basis. If you'd like more information about that, YP, Skype me or contact me directly, and I can help you out with that. We've developed a couple of Excel templates that all you have to do is copy and paste the POMS report for your region and drop them into this Excel spreadsheet, and it calculates them in a matter of seconds. It takes literally 2 to 3 minutes from start to finish. YC says, is there an immediate plan to upgrade the server speed response time? That's a tricky question. We are getting sporadic reports from certain people around the world, most notably in a couple of Asian countries, that it's extremely slow to access BNI Connect. I mean, as you can see with what I was doing today, I know there's a little bit of lag with the webinar time, but for, I'd say about 95% of the world, it is fairly responsive. I think part of the problem might have to do with some internet routing issues. The server itself is located in the UK, and there might be some routing problems between some specific countries and getting back to the UK. It's something that we're going to have to work with the internet providers on because the system itself is fast and it's hosted at a reputable host rack space. But it might be the firewalls and or proxy servers in some of these countries that are giving us a problem. So if anybody out there knows how to get on the good side or on the good list for some of the major internet providers to maybe get put onto a safe list or something like that, that would be helpful to us here. Because other than that, the servers themselves and the hosting company are fast. They are doing the thing. Does that make sense at all, YC? Is there a plan to include tracking on the referral slips conversion rate? Right now, I don't know of any plans, but if that's something that you would like to write up for me, how would you envision that working? And what exactly do you want to track in that? For example, time to close or just percentage of number of closing. That would be great. I'd love to put that in as a suggestion for a future release. That might even be a nice premium feature someday. Excellent. Do we have more questions? Do we have any more questions? I'd love to answer those questions. All right. Well, anybody's thinking of their last questions here, let me direct you. Remember that the webinar is being recorded. It'll be on the support site. Our next webinar is tomorrow at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, which is 8 p.m. GMT, and it will be Building VCP with BNI Connect. We're going to go through the member profile, some tips and tricks and best practices for making sure that your member profile is up to date. And again, all of the recorded webinars are down here in the training section or at youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. Also, if you could do me a favor, go to facebook.com/BNI Connect Global and give us a like up here. We also do webinar announcements and tips and tricks and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook site as well. And as I said before, a good referral for me, please let your chapters and your regions and your fellow members know about these webinars. We'd love to get the knowledge out of our heads and into yours. Thank you, everybody, for being on the webinar today. I look forward to seeing you again in the near future. Happy connecting, everyone, and have a great day.